All right, welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. A busy week, a lot not hanging in the balance, and a lot of dynamics going on, Dr. Lopkin. First thing I think we'll talk about, I'll throw it out to you, is the Iowa caucuses. Just a series of meltdowns by the Democratic Party, starting with impeachment, now the Iowa caucuses, and then the State of the Union. But let's just focus on the Iowa caucuses. First of all, the technical glitches didn't speak well, did it?
No, not at all. And the fact of the matter is, it was completely avoidable and completely predictable. Precinct captains reported problems as early as Monday morning. So they had all day to come up with a backup plan, which, quite frankly, they should have had in the first place, and they failed to do so. On top of that, they rolled out a brand new app to collect the data, transmit it, and according to a lot of those same precinct captains and a lot of the people that worked at the Iowa State Committee, they never bothered to actually test it completely. So they went in with an untested piece of software, and surprise, surprise, everything blew up in their face.
Yes, yes. Funny, this is an aside. I watch Tucker Carlson. I think he's really very intellectual, very insightful, very engaging. I like his show. And he always talks about the best and the brightest, not in those words, but basically the elitist. Best schools, best, pedigree, but they always screw it up. And I didn't know, do you know who was running that? I know it was a Hillary affiliated situation. Robbie Mook. And supposedly, Harvard grad, whatever, Ivy League, all that. The same person that you could have someone from a community college. What he ran the Hillary Clinton campaign, someone I wouldn't hire to be a cashier at Walmart. And let me just go on for one more second. Most of the time, even Madeline, the wife of Carvel, she kind of screwed up the George H.W. Bush campaign, but still had an afterlife,
Right.
Robbie Mook has no after. He screwed up something that I don't even understand how you. I mean, she should have won. Let's just be honest. And he screwed it up, and now he's running this. I mean, I'm surprised he even has a job, and they entrusted him to do anything.
Well, the app was built by a company called Shadow Inc. Okay, now first of all, if you're going to name a company, do you really want something as ominous as Shadow Inc.?
Probably not for a governmental type of scenario.
Right.
No.
The company was founded, and almost all of their employees are former employees from the Clinton and Obama campaigns. So basically, this company was put together for the sole purpose of capitalizing on their political contacts.
Yes. And the Obama campaign, well run, Hillary's, I wouldn't hire any of them for anything. The most incompetent people ever. So they screwed that up. It didn't. I think it added to a lot of frustration. We'll talk about a little bit later with Nancy Pelosi and others later on the following day. But let's look at the results. I think they're interesting. Mayor Pete comes out of there with a whole new breath of life. A breath of death is Biden. Your comments?
Yeah, Joe Biden came in a distant fourth. So even
if he finished,
it's possible. He's been trying to sort of say, well, we never expected much from Iowa. He's been focusing on other states. But the fact of the matter is, over the last 2 days, his campaign has been in crisis mode, trying to convince their donors that he is still viable. His donors are headed for the door.
He is in crisis mode. He might pretend that they're not. If he does not win New Hampshire, I say, I don't know how many rounds he's had. Round 5 over. I mean, he's been running since 1988. I don't know how many that is. But 2% Joe is 2% Joe. If he doesn't pull out New Hampshire, what do you think, Dr. Lopkin?
if he doesn't have a strong showing in New Hampshire, his donors are going to walk, and he will have to fold up his tent not too much after that, because without the money, he does not have a campaign.
Agreed. I think actually impeachment hearing actually hurt him more than it did Trump because of the whole corruption type of scenario that he's now associated with, rightfully or wrongfully so. And I think another loser is Elizabeth Warren. Yeah, she was in the top 3, but no mojo.
But not as strong as she expected to be. She did not come out of it well.
She's wounded.
You know, the fact of the matter is the top 3 were expected to be Biden, Sanders, and Warren.
Yes.
Buttigieg completely upended that. And even Amy Klobuchar did better than anybody expected her to do.
I think the 2 big winners are her and Mayor Pete. I
yes.
think Mayor Pete is a vile. I don't agree with his philosophy or political ideology, but he both of them are actually very good foils against Trump. They would have a chance. I don't think anyone else would.
I don't think Buttigieg has a chance against Trump. I think Amy can, but the big winner from the Iowa caucus is Michael Bloomberg. He's the one that avoided the caucus altogether, didn't even bother going to Iowa, wasn't on the ballot there. And quite frankly, any of the moderates that have been backing Biden, now that they've seen he's self-destructing, they're all looking at, well, we can't support Bernie or Warren. We're going to turn our sights to supporting Bloomberg.
I think you're actually 100% spot on. I think he is the big winner. Klobuchar is a winner too, and obviously Mayor Pete. 2 big losers are Warren and Biden. Moving on to the State of the Union, perplexing at best. Again, the Democrats have not had a good week or 2, starting with impeachment, the delay in impeachment, the Iowa caucuses, and then the State of the Union was a wholesale disaster. Trump had a very good show. It was a show, a measured speech, delivered well, and the Democrats with the whole suffragette thing, with the wearing white. Okay, that's 3 years old. It's lost all its effect. You look ridiculous. They didn't applaud things like, they applauded some things, but other things they did not were just obvious. That's not that big of a deal. Nancy Pelosi having a meltdown is a big issue. I don't know if she's completely in control. I never agreed with her politics. I didn't think she was a Mensa candidate, but I thought she had amazing political instincts. And I cannot believe she did what she did.
Well,
she looked completely unhinged.
Let's face it, Nancy Pelosi is having a terrible week. Starts Sunday with her 49ers losing the Super Bowl. Monday, you have the Democratic caucus completely meltdown. Tuesday, you have the State of the Union, and you have the Gallup poll come out stating that Trump is at his highest job approval rating yet, with his approval rating on the economy at 62%.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That deserves a little more.
And then
go ahead.
I'm just going through her week. And then Wednesday, today, Trump is scheduled to be acquitted on impeachment charges. So she's having a really rough week. And clearly she did not take it well last night. As she's ripping up the speech, she's basically showing what the major problem with the Democratic Party is right now. And it's that instead of doing anything constructive, they've spent the last several years throwing a hissy fit.
Yes, it's a hissy fit, but I think it's deeper than that, Dr. Lopkin. I think they can't get over the fact that all the deep state can't get over the fact that Trump won, but they really can't. They cannot believe ignorant Walmart shoppers elected Trump. They can't also get over the fact that his numbers not just his poll numbers, but the economic numbers, the accomplishments, in spite of everything, are so powerful. It points to their failures. And he was I was a little surprised. I haven't really seen that before. He was very, very critical of the previous, which would be Obama's administration. He called that out 3 or 4 times. That is Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi ripping up the State of the Union did not serve her well. And I think she was freaked out about all the above, which you said, especially her complete failure with impeachment. I think she never wanted it. It was against her instincts. It has imploded. And I think, you talk about his poll numbers, they're about 50%. You mentioned the economic numbers are even better. There's not just pie in the sky thinking, wishful thinking. I think his actual poll numbers, you could easily add 5 points. What do you think, Dr. Lopkin?
Yeah, I mean, the poll numbers tend to skew left, simply because.
Yeah, but not even just because of the scientific survey. I'm thinking people are apprehensive to say, yes, I like Trump. That's just a fact.
Oh, I'm sure there's a part of that. I think there's a bigger factor is that because Trump supporters don't trust these pollsters, don't trust the media, they don't answer the polls. So the fact that he's at 50%, it's probably at least 5% higher. Again, the approval rating on the job he's doing with the economy is at 62%. Nancy Pelosi ripping up this speech in front of the cameras. She's throwing a temper tantrum because Trump has shown that everything her party did for the 8 years previous to him being in office was useless.
Not even useless, it was detrimental. I also think that the swing voters seeing that ruins their any credibility the Democrats have, or lessens it, not ruins it, lessens it, and says, who are these people ripping up a State of the Union document? I mean, that's just unheard of.
Well, look at the bigger picture, though. Over the past 48 hours, voters have seen the Democratic caucus completely mishandled. A hissy fit on national television tearing up the speech. Even the most diehard Democrat has got to be looking at this going, what has happened to my party?
Oh, well, even Carvel,
James Carville.
Yep, and others. Everyone, Trump, deservingly so, gets a lot of criticisms for many things he deserves, tweets and whatever, acting unprecedented. But the Democratic Party, it's a civil war. It's in complete chaos. It's in chaos.
It's in complete chaos. I mean, I have said both on this podcast and on the air on the radio show that, I mean, Trump is essentially a buffoon. He does, and again, the best quote I ever heard about him was, he does the right thing in the worst possible way. So, I mean, yes, does he deserve criticism? Absolutely. But the meltdown that the Democrats have had, and now you have to wonder what's really going on, because if you're paying attention to politics, you know that campaign finance reports were filed recently and now they're public. Crain's New York took a look at the campaign finance report for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And of course, it turns out, now everybody has talked about the fact that she is a tremendous fundraiser. And it's been a thorn in the side of the Democratic Party that she has not been contributing to the DNC. But when they looked at her filings, it turns out that virtually none of her fundraising or her funds that have come in are actually from her district. So the people who need to elect these Democrats, they're not supporting her. It's outside money coming in.
Yeah, so, but it's a big part of it. It's a big part of a bigger which is true. It started with Bernie. It's the funding of the socialist wing of the Democratic Party, and she is the leader.
Yes.
Pelosi is the follower, and that is the face, like it or not. And maybe the old school, Carbell, others, yeah, okay, they might be a little up in arms or a little disgruntled about the whole thing, but this is the face of the Democratic Party, starting with Bernie. And Bernie Sanders started it. It was something that was just a sideshow. Now it's no sideshow. They're the power base.
They have the left wing has successfully taken over the Democratic Party. And again, we saw something similar with the Tea Party and the Republicans on the right during the Obama years, but the Tea Party never successfully controlled the party. They had a say, but the socialists have basically taken over. And AOC not too long ago made a comment that she and Joe Biden should not be in the same party. And
absolutely.
She's absolutely right. The problem is Joe Biden is the one that belongs in the Democratic Party. She belongs over in the Socialist Party. But since the Socialist Party has no following in this country and can't win an election, they tried a coup, took over the Democratic Party, and then they tried a second coup to get Trump out of the White House.
That is absolutely correct, and they're behaving like communists, not even socialists, by having that ridiculous impeachment scenario. I think it's very dangerous. I think if Bernie Sanders or any of these, I don't think they have any chance of winning. I think here's my prediction. I truly believe that the Democrats will have a rebirth, a reorganization after 2020 when they lose. I think they're going to lose everything. I think they're going to lose the House, Senate, and presidency. I really do believe that. And I think there'll be a civil war. Now it's below the surface. It will not be below the surface. The fight for the control of the Democratic Party. What do you think, Dr. Lopkin?
I think after the 2020 election, there's definitely going to be a civil war within the Democratic Party. I'm not so sure.
Do you think they lose all three branches?
I don't know that they're going to lose all three branches. Simply because of what seats are up. I think they may be able to hold on to the House. I think they'll lose seats, but I think they'll still be able to hold on, unless, of course, the Civil War starts earlier. And the one thing actually that could completely undermine the Democratic Party, which would actually cause them to lose everything, is if Sanders or Warren gets the nomination, because there have been a lot of big Democratic donors, moderate Democrats, who have come out and said, if one of them is the candidate, we are not supporting them. We are out of here. And Bernie is also tearing apart the party because he's got his followers, and a number of them have come out and said, if Bernie doesn't get the nomination, they're not supporting whoever the nominee is.
Yeah, so there's a lot of problems in that party, and it's escalating. The last comment on the Civil War, I believe it's escalating, and I believe Nancy Pelosi becoming unhinged is a symptom of the disease.
It really is. I think she's folding under the pressure. She was, for the longest time, the line in the sand. She was trying to hold back the wave that was happening, and now she's failed. And her side is losing the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Now, as we are talking right now, it's Wednesday on February 5th after 2:30 in the afternoon. Trump looks, he's going to be acquitted. I think it's pretty much now Jones, a vulnerable Democrat from Alabama, I believe, said he's going to vote for conviction. I think it's going to go straight down party lines.
It's probably going to go straight down party lines. That's not really a surprise.
I did think 2 or 3 Democrats would like Manchin and others would bail on it, but I guess that's not going to be the case.
No, I think ultimately both sides are falling in line behind their parties. The same thing, happened in the House. Not one Republican was convinced to vote for impeachment in either House or Senate. And again, remember, it wasn't just a matter, everybody kept talking about the four influential Republican senators that they could have flipped and brought in witnesses. But even if all four of them had flipped and witnesses were brought in, that still didn't give them enough votes to convict him, because
it
you
would have
needed
changed. It would have no. But Dr. Lopkin, I get it, but it would have changed the narrative. Sorry.
It definitely would have changed the narrative, but he still would have ended up being exonerated.
I got it, but there's no narrative, and it is a complete disaster. It's a Hindenburg of the Democratic Party. That is just a fact.
The fact of the matter is, it failed so miserably in the Senate because they did not do their job in the House. They rushed the impeachment because they wanted everything wrapped up in time for the election so that they could campaign that they impeached him. There was a lot.
Yes, I think, but there's also an underlying problem that there was really no real crime.
Well,
so you can have an investigation about jaywalking,
that's a big problem. But remember, it was stated in both the Nixon and the Clinton impeachments that an impeachable offense does not necessarily have to be a crime. The problem is they kept pushing on obstruction of Congress. Because Trump did not hand over what they demanded. He blocked witnesses. The problem is they had absolutely no case there because they rushed. Because Clinton did the same thing, Nixon did the same thing.
Yes, it's called the balance of powers.
Right, but in a proper procedure, it then goes to court, and the courts decide. In both Nixon and Clinton's case, the courts decided the information had to be handed over, and both presidents did. Here, the Democrats decided we can't afford to go to court, partially because of timing, but quite frankly, I think more because they didn't have a case.
Exactly. I think you're 100% correct on that. If the courts ruled, then you can get an obstruction of Congress, but they didn't rule. There is no obstruction. It's called the balance of power.
Yep.
I think on the second charge, in terms of abuse of power, I think, to be completely fair, not impeachable, but what Trump did on that phone call was pretty stupid.
It was moronic.
It was not a clean. No, Dr. Lopkin, was it or was it not a clean phone call? I say no way.
No, it was by no stretch of the imagination. It was by no stretch of the imagination a clean phone call. It was a stupid thing for him to do. Even now, and I'm not even saying that asking for an investigation was the stupid thing to do, because there was some hinky stuff that went on with the Bidens. But tying it into any aid, even the suggestion that there was any kind of quid pro quo or that he wanted anything. If he had just said, by the way, you guys had investigated this, could you let us know what you found?
But fine. You know something, 100% correct. He did tie, let's face it, there was a veil threat, implied threat that he was withholding things. And what boggles my mind is he just got over the Mueller fiasco, the 2-year he came out of there pretty much unscathed. It blew up on the day. And what does he do right after that? Put his foot in his mouth. Totally stupid. It was not 100% clean, and he should not. It's not impeachable, but certainly he caused it. He brought it upon himself.
He did bring it about himself, and the fact of the matter is, it could have been impeachable. The fine line that made it not impeachable was the fact that there was no investigation and the Ukraine got the aid.
Agreed 100%, Dr. Lopkin. If it was a very, very big gray area, he's lucky. He's lucky the Republicans have the Senate. He could have been in big trouble. Really, really stupid. And that also points to why so many people leave his administration and why the caliber of talent is so lame for those two very big reasons, because he can't help himself and he doesn't listen to advice.
Exactly.
And the last thing about the whole State of the Union and the impeachment is I don't think he's tweeted today. And I said, as soon as Nancy Pelosi ripped up the State of the Union speech, I said to him, I thought to myself, if I was his advisor, I would just tell him, do nothing for 48 hours. Do not.
Exactly.
She's drowning herself. Shut the heck up. Do not say a word.
You are completely correct on that. Let the image speak for itself. Stay out of it.
I don't know if he can help himself, but that's what any advisor would do. I don't know if he has a good advisor, but my God, just shut up. Let her commit her own ritual suicide and be done with it. Now, last point on the impeachment. I heard this today, that Jerry Nadler is basically talking, I can't say what I had a lot, is talking about subpoenaing Bolton. If I have to ask you, if they start round two, I think it's beyond political suicide. What do you think?
They have absolutely no basis. If they go forward with more investigations, it becomes blatantly obvious that this is just sour grapes. The fact of the matter is,
I think people tune out. I think it has a.
People have already tuned out. Every campaign poll, nobody is talking about impeachment. They're tired of it. They want to talk about the issues that affect them. And as long as the Democrats keep pushing impeachment, it's only going to hurt them.
Yeah, I think it becomes not even just deaf ears, meaning, people don't care. I think people start getting turned off, not literally the dial. I mean, in their own, I think they shrug and go, this just has to stop. But I don't think Nadler, just like Trump can't help himself with the tweets, I don't think Nadler and the others, Schiff, I don't think they can. I think that's all they know. I think they're addicted to the limelight and they're addicted to impeachment. I really believe that.
I think you hit it right on the button. They are addicted to the limelight and they don't want to let that go. And the fact of the matter is, given the districts that they each come from, there's very little chance that either one is going to get voted out of office. So they can spend their time chasing that limelight with very little effect on their jobs.
It actually might be a net benefit. I think Nadler's district is so far left that if he didn't do this, it might hurt him.
But actually, I know the district well. I don't think there's anything that he could do one way or the other that would really hurt him. This is one of those districts that you could, to use Nancy Pelosi's line, you could put a D on a coffee cup and it would win the election.
Interesting. Any final thoughts? A very interesting week, though. I mean, you'd have to say biggest winners, Donald Trump. Biggest losers, Democratic Party. I mean, I've never seen such a, if you will, reversal of fortune. I've never seen it. In October, one thing, in October, positive, negative in terms of pro-impeachment was, I think it was like 60-40, something of that nature. Just a complete mishandling. What are your thoughts?
No, this was
is it a reversal of fortune?
It's a huge, especially from October, it's a huge reversal of fortune. In October, the narrative was criminal president, we're going to impeach him. The economy's going into recession. Everything's going bad. We need to elect a Democrat to the White House. Now, the economy is steaming along. There's no sign of a recession. Impeachment has completely failed. The Iowa caucus showcased the incompetence of the Democratic Party. Now they're on the receiving end. They need to do some serious house cleaning and get that house in order. At this point, I don't know that they can do that in time for the 2020 election.
I don't think so. Last question, Dr. Lopkin, your insight. Oh, wow. I just got breaking news. Mitt Romney breaks with GOP, will vote to convict Trump.
Okay, I'm not terribly surprised about that. But again, it still doesn't give them anywhere near the votes they need to impeach him.
But doesn't it change the narrative?
No, because it's Romney. Romney has been against Trump since before the election.
Let me ask you another question. Does he change parties? Could be.
I could see him doing it. I don't know that the Democrats would want him.
Don't take anyone. You want to change the balance of power. I am really surprised that Mitt Romney just did that. In his district, they're totally against this. And he's basically saying, I'm 75 years old. I don't really care. I'm not running against anyone.
That's pretty much it. If he's not going to run for re-election, he's going to retire. He's got his pension. He doesn't care. He didn't like Donald Trump before he was president. He fought him the whole way during the election. He's been nasty. They've been nasty to each other the entire time. This is, personal
come up. I got it. But I do think
schoolyard fight between the two of them.
It does change the narrative a bit.
Again, it's actually, it changes it in favor of Donald Trump.
Really? Why is that?
Because now the Democrats cannot claim that it was a Republican cover-up, that the only reason they couldn't impeach him was because the Republicans wouldn't let him. Look, they made their case. One of the Republicans jumped, but they didn't make a good enough case to make more jump.
Wow. Well, I think it's not a good thing for Trump. We'll see how it plays out. Overall, good week for him. I think Romney did put a monkey wrench in it. I believe that's true.
Again, Romney's been a monkey wrench the whole time.
Well, that concludes another edition of Carnivore Bites. Thanks so much, Dr. Lopkin. We'll do it again next week.
See you then.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.